Welcome back, everybody. Stoner Jesus Show. Have on Skype. You have Jake Pentland, Fake Pentland on Twitter. He's a producer, podcast host. I don't know if you still do podcasting. We'll get into that. And also, we'd be remiss if we didn't mention that he is the son of Roseanne. Yes, that Roseanne. I don't have to tell you. I think people still, when people say Roseanne, they still think of your mom. There's none other.
There really isn't. The only confusion that comes up is Rosie O'Donnell from time to time.
Well, that's unfortunate.
I agree. I love Rosie. I'm not going to rag on Rosie, but it is unfortunate to be mistaken sometimes.
Yeah.
They look alike.
A little bit.
A little bit. I know.
One is more talented. Let's put it that way. At least in my opinion. And I'm sure yours as well.
I assume you're talking about Rosie O'Donnell.
No. Although that show she had where she was shooting the things in the audience, that was pretty exciting.
It was.
So before we get into all the craziness of your life and all that, I'd be remiss if I didn't talk about something that's all the rage now. Have you tried the Tide Pods yet? Apparently it's the thing everybody's doing.
Well, whenever I hear everyone's doing something, automatically won't do it. I'm a contrarian, so I'm safe as of now. I haven't even watched a Tide Pod video yet.
Yeah, neither have I.
I have searched to see if anyone's died yet, because that's when I would be entertained, and that's what I'm looking for. And so far, nobody's died yet, which is a bummer.
Yeah, it's crazy. The internet generation is crazy. That's for sure.
Yeah.
So before we get into your past and what you're up to now and all that, well, more into what you got going on now. Do you still do the podcast, or is that something that you've left behind for now?
I am retired from podcasting currently. I haven't done it. In almost, I think it's probably almost been 2 years. It just got too crazy for me. I mean, I can handle like people trying to shut me down and fire me and boycott me and assault me and threaten to kill, but it started to affect interpersonal relationships with my family, and it was too much. And even my co-hosts, like, we were all fighting all the time. It was just too much stress. Not doing the show was fun, but the fallout that we got, I don't know if that happens to you or not, but it was getting really nasty. In fact, we had people like threatening to kill us. My co-host, her husband was a cop. They were threatening to call the police department and play our tapes because we would say horrible shit on the air. I can swear, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
So we'd say horribly offensive stuff, and of course, if his captain found out, he'd get in trouble, and we just didn't think it was worth losing jobs over, and friends and family, so we stopped. But it was a great show. I'm proud of it. I really am, and it's still available somewhere, I'm sure, if you want to hear it.
Yeah, I think there's some YouTube stuff, and I was looking through. You're a former alumni, I guess, as we are, of Blog Talk Radio, which was quite an interesting part of podcasting history, that's for sure.
You have it's like college when you want to be a podcaster. You have to go on Blog Talk. I actually started. My mom bought, which was the real Blog Talk, as I call it, because she bought airtime on an AM radio station in San Bernardino, an actual radio show. It was like public access, and you could buy an allotment of time and do a radio show.
Yeah.
And you got the mixing board guy, and she bought a year's worth, and then, like she tends to do sometimes, she just got off on something else. So I asked if I could fill in there. So I started on AM radio. That's what I can tell people, and I look cool. But it really was just my mommy paid for it. But we did that. Then Mom fired me from the AM radio show because I said that I said something disparaging about modern feminism. So she fired me, and that's why I ended up on Blog Talk. Two of my fans were these two gay guys that loved my AM show, and they paid for my Blog Talk time.
Wow.
Blog Talk was actually the next phase of my podcasting career. And then I went out on my own. I got the mixing board, did it myself at my house, like how you're doing it.
Yeah. Yeah, Blog Talk was definitely interesting. I haven't listened to a show on there in quite a long time, but I assume that it sounds exactly the same.
It was horrible. I mean, you called in on your phone. And they never promoted anything. We were doing these great shows, and I got Rosie O'Donnell, actually, believe it or not. Probably the best interview I ever did. She called in when I was on Blog Talk. She actually did a Blog Talk show, so it was a big deal for me. And Blog Talk, for the first time, promoted my show, but all they did on their main page was say, listen to an interview with Rosie O'Donnell. They never said who I was for my show, and that ended up getting almost 200,000 downloads on Blog Talk, which is a big deal. and all these people, I got nice things said, but nobody knew where to go. They never said the Jake Pentland Show or linked my page, which still pisses me off to this day.
The only thing I ever got from Blog Talk was an email after I did my first show that said, I think I had chosen like mature audiences as like my setting, but they told me that wasn't good enough and that they were going to put me on the setting that was like, if you had safe search on, I wouldn't even come up in the search. And that was the last I heard from Blog Talk Radio.
Yeah. The man's trying to hold us down, man.
I know. It's censorship. I've dealt with it my whole life. I do feel like I'm doing podcasting wrong. I haven't gotten any actual death threats or anything along those lines. I have gotten flack for, Stoner Jesus and combining, weed and Jesus, and some religious people aren't fans of that exactly, but nothing to that level, that's for sure. I guess that's why I'm still here.
Yeah. Then you're not living, man.
That's right. I've been doing it wrong for all these years.
You're totally wrong. You should be hiding in your house like I was at one point with your handgun. And just looking at is that motherfucker serious? Because he knew my address. Mm. But luckily, he was 670 pounds. He was a morbidly obese man. So I figured
you see him coming.
I could see him coming, and there's a steep driveway to my door, and then there's about 13 stairs to my bedroom. So he wouldn't even make it.
Yeah. And if he did, you would have plenty of time to prepare.
I would. And I had a 45, which I think could pierce a fat man, possibly.
At least enough to get him going back down the other way.
Yeah, exactly. There's only one way to find out.
Yeah.
But anyway, that was scary. So yes, I don't do that anymore. But I still do work for my mother in this fancy studio here.
So I was going to ask, what are you up to these days?
Well, we're in a weird transitional phase. Roseanne's back, the sitcom, which I'm sure you know, and we technically are the production company, but I'm not a player in this business at all, and I wouldn't ask to be. So. The company's name is doing well. I'm just kind of waiting to see how it goes. We air on the end of March, March 27th. I think it comes back. And, if it goes well, if the ratings are good, then, potentially there'll be more work for me. I shot some of the table read in the commercial. I don't know if you go on my Twitter account, you'll see it's my pinned tweet now. Where I talk about you'll see a sex symbol on the Roseanne commercial, and it's me. So I got to film a little bit for the promotion part of ABC, but as of now, I'm really not doing anything. It's a really weird time for me.
So
I've been working since I was 17, and I'm just kind of sitting around a little bit.
Yeah, it's definitely. We talked about some of this on Twitter about what a weird time it is. You have obviously a lot of perspective now on your mom's show and what went on back then. What have you all, collectively, the people surrounding the show, what have you all learned about what happened then? What do you think about it now with, like I said, with all these years of perspective, and how's that affected like the return of the show?
Well, I have to be careful what I say, just because I usually like to be really honest, but it's a really odd time in this country. Everybody's batshit fucking crazy, whether you're left wing or right, wherever you are on the spectrum. There's a lot of us in the middle that are sane, but most people, it seems, are batshit insane, and you can't reason with them, you can't talk to them. I think most people are mentally ill or drug addicts. I don't know what's going on. If there's CIA mind control going on, but I can tell you this show is currently being threatened. It hasn't been aired yet, to be boycotted from both left-wingers who don't like that she voted for Trump and supports Trump, and right-wingers are trying to boycott it because they heard a character in the show is a young boy who wears a dress. So there's a hashtag boycott Roseanne, which I was all over. I think that's probably where you saw me being myself, and I was fighting with these people. I've been instructed not to engage them anymore. We kind of just don't want, we don't want to give them too much power. But to answer your question, sorry, I talk a lot. It's a really weird time. My mom's famous for fighting for the middle class and being the voice of the voiceless, and that show's first run is legendary. Everybody knows about it. And that's one thing that people always say about that show was it finally showed how real America was and middle America. And it has a very big liberal following because of that. And Mom had the first gay character ever, the first gay kiss. They had major gay characters with Martin Mull and Fred Willard. They had a gay wedding. They broke every taboo in television, not just the gay stuff. And it's a cutting edge, famous show for it. So the weird thing for me is to come back. Everybody's on it. Same cast, same characters, same writers, everybody. And now to have this outrage from those people that supported it for so long, to say that they're going to boycott it because she's now sold out as a Trump supporter. And the weird part for me is, it's an interesting observation I've made, I feel the voiceless people in America today, and the show premiered in 1989 at the end of Reagan and Bush Sr., and trickle down wasn't working and blah, blah, blah. The middle class was struggling. A lot of the middle class back then were leaned to the left a little bit more. And now I'm starting to think the trend is the other way. I think a lot of people in the middle class are right wing. And I see a lot of the elitist, sort of powerful people being more left wing. I mean, you see it in news, obviously there's Fox News and there's right wing news, but the elite now, there's like a liberal elite. Yeah. And the people that are ignored and feel ignored, the middle class, those are the people that voted for Trump, whether you agree with it or not. I mean, I'm a Bernie Sanders fan. I'm a registered Democrat. I did not want Trump to win personally, but I wasn't as shocked as everybody else was.
Yeah.
And I knew when you start talking about jobs and people struggling, we're still recruits. So to answer your question, it's the same Roseanne. It's the same show, and it's speaking to the same audience. The only difference is the elite, in my opinion, today is left, and the struggling middle class is right.
Yeah.
So it's a weird time because a lot of people feel betrayed by mom because she supported Trump, that she doesn't care about middle class and jobs anymore. That's all she cares about. That's why she wanted to.
Yeah, it's definitely an odd thing. You look back, and people always say, well, there's certain shows that wouldn't fly today, like, Married with Children, and especially All in the Family. And Roseanne sometimes mentioned in that same vein, but, as you said, it was more of a middle class focused show, and it dealt with a lot of stuff that people are still talking about to this day, but they have it actually come back in the midst of this storm where, on the one side you have, the PC police or whatever, and those type of people. On the other side, you have Trump, and how everything's just come together in the last year. And you mentioned about your mom running for president. It was just 5 6 years ago. And even up to the green. Even from that point up to like when Trump first announced that he was running again, it was kind of seen by a lot of people as like, oh, that's funny. It's a celebrity running for president. But now we're here a year into the administration of President Trump, and it seems like everything is just knocked on its head. And now we're talking about, Oprah's going to be the next president, and it's just going to go on from there.
Yeah, it's a weird time, man. It's like it used to be, like, again, when my mom ran, a celebrity's running. Oh, God, what a whack job. And now when a celebrity announces they're running, everyone's like, well, shit, they got a shot. You don't have to be in government for life. If the people buy their shit, they'll vote for them. So, yeah, it's different. And in a lot of ways, we don't trust people that are in government their whole lives. We don't trust, like, career politicians. That's another reason Trump won, is that, Hillary had been, the Clinton family had been in power, so to speak, in one version or the other for 30, 40 years. A lot of people saw them as the establishment, which by definition they are. And again, I'm a Democrat, so I'm not going to sit here and rag on the Clintons or anything, but it's not crazy to see the Clintons as the establishment and Trump as the sort of outsider, even though he's the establishment too, because he's a billionaire real estate. They're both establishment. I'm just saying I understand it. I understand the thinking.
Yeah. So I guess you guys are, like I said, it's going to be really interesting to see the show come back in the midst of the culture wars that are going on, everything that's going on with social media and the internet and all that stuff. Are you guys, I guess you guys are just basically bracing yourselves for when this hits in a couple months, right?
Yeah, I mean, there's really nothing else to do. We're doing press. We took mom's Twitter away, basically right out of her hands, because I love her to death. She's just a contrarian too. That's why I get it. And sometimes she's a shit poster. I'll be honest. Sometimes she's a troll. Sometimes she's a brilliant activist. She's all those things. So when you're promoting a show, you don't want to necessarily upset a large portion of the country, because that can affect your job. So she didn't sell out. A lot of people say, because they know her Twitter's been more tame lately, a lot of people have accused her of selling out. We literally stole her phone and signed out her password and changed it because we didn't want her to get in so much trouble. Nowadays, you can't, like, controversy used to be a good way to sell a show, you know?
Mm.
I always say it's, bad news is good news. If no one's talking about you, that's when you got to worry. But nowadays, the wrong kind of controversy, you could set off the wrong kind of people, and they're mentally ill, stay at home with their cats all day. They got nothing better to do. They have the power, technically, to shut you down. They can. And you don't want to upset crazy people. You just don't. It's also just mean. It's just mean to poke a crazy person. So we took her Twitter away. So we're letting these next couple months just kind of be mellow and see. We really want people to pay attention to the show, the content of the show, the characters that everyone knows and loves. They're back. I've seen all the episodes. I was there at every taping. It's good. I swear to God, it's good. It's just as good in my opinion. I haven't seen them edited yet, but everything's there. The love, the trials and tribulation. It speaks about what everyone's going through, which is what that show does. Some characters in the show are Trump supporters, some aren't. They fight, which is happening across America. In every family, they're struggling for work like every family. And all those issues that made that show so great, that connected us all together as a universal audience that was watching this Connor family represent us. That's back. And I just don't want to see it get sabotaged before people figure it out, because the star voted for Trump and now we've got to boycott it. You know, Sarah Gilbert is one of the hugest, biggest Hillary supporters there are. Goodman, pretty much everyone else on that show, everyone from writers down to the person serving coffee. This is California. They are Hillary left-wing supporters. Mom is all alone. So if you're going to boycott that show because you want to hurt a Trump supporter, if you pulled it off, you're going to hurt a lot of people that you consider allies, which is just insane. So yeah, we're just waiting to see. I hope it does well, because if it does well, then my trust fund grows.
That's always a plus.
That's all. The reason I'm here.
Yeah, I think if like you said, if it's as well written as the original was, that people, once they get into it, that's what they'll focus on. All this other stuff. There's a lot of noise, and it's grown and pushed out there by social media and all that. But I think in the end, it's what it's always been, just like what it was back then when people were writing letters to the FCC. It's a small amount of people making as much noise as possible. But
it's just the only reason I got nervous, which I did. I don't want to give them power and go, oh, we're scared of the boycott, because we're not, and we know it's not going to work. And honestly, left-wing boycotts that end up helping businesses. We saw it happen with Chick-fil-A, for instance.
Yeah.
So in some ways, I kind of want to go, yeah, please go out and boycott it, because the Trump supporters are very loyal. They'll show up and go, oh yeah, well, if you're going to boycott, we'll watch it 10 times on 10 different Nelson boxes, and they'll have that culture war. So it's not necessarily a bad thing. It's just what I found upsetting when it was going on was that, this is my mother, who's an artist, is someone I respect. Even if she wasn't my mother, I still would, I watched her work, 70, 80 hours a week. I watched her do a show with the flu. She's 66 now. She's never been in great shape. And I watched, we were carrying her from the set back to the dressing room so she could sleep in between takes. She was a mess. And it's like, I see this woman working her ass off. And then, of course, she's my mother and I love her. And then to see some people go, shit, I don't want to watch it. Screw it, because of who she voted for. I take it very personal, because you're silencing an artist for disagreeing with you, which I find really childish and immature, and it just triggers me all over. It's like it used to be in the podcast. Those are the people I would get mad at, on the left and the right. Like, you can't try and ruin other people's lives because they disagree with you. That's how a child thinks. That's how a child acts. Like, I didn't get my toy break, smash.
Yeah, and it's weird. Yeah, in this era, there's tons of people I disagree with politically. Probably most of the people that I watch entertainment and stuff like that. But it never would occur to me that, well, I'm not going to watch this show because I disagree with them. I'm there for the story and the characters and the writing and all that. It's a weird time, that's for sure. You're
an adult, obviously a well-functioned adult, and I'd like to think that most of us are that way, but I don't know. I mean, sometimes I think Twitter clouds my judgment because everyone on there is the same. And I start thinking this is the way the world is, and you'll go outside and go to the grocery store and talk to someone, and you're like, oh, people aren't so fucking crazy.
Yeah, that's the weird thing out in the real world. It's still mostly the way it used to be, but you get stuck in this bubble of social media, and you can get your vision warped here pretty quick.
I hope you're right, man. Because I sometimes I wonder if it's just a microcosm. It's just like
Yeah.
that's how it is. I don't know.
Yeah, it may just be wishful thinking, but that's what I'm going to stick with.
Yeah, me too. It's like
So
a zombie. It's like a Walking Dead, really. It's like a zombie apocalypse, except instead of zombies, it's just fucking crazy, mentally ill people that like that their person didn't win the election.
yeah.
And you're like, yeah, brains. It's just weird. Anyway,
So how
what
did
was
it
your next
all?
question?
How did it all come about? Like, whose idea was it? Was it like a collective thing? How did the show come back from just being an idea to actually making episodes?
Well, the official story, and it's mostly true, is that Sarah Gilbert, she produces The Talk, and she's one of the panel members on the show The Talk, which is like The View. I don't know how else to describe it. She did a sketch with John Goodman, who was the guest, and they did an old Roseanne sketch on the green screen on the couch. And I didn't actually see the sketch. I don't watch Daytime Talk, but apparently that just got people so excited just to see Darlene and Dan again on that couch. Well, Darlene has a very good relationship with Tom Warner, who runs Carsey Warner, and they were the original producers of the show and the Cosby Show. Carsey Warner, you've probably seen Carsey Warner at the end of shows.
Oh yeah.
If you're my age or our age. So Sarah and Tom had a conversation, and then it was just sort of asking if other people would be interested because it felt like the right time. That's what's so funny. Like everyone was looking at it going, we need to bring the Connor family back because people are so divided. We need like this unifying force. And then now we have multiple boycotts. But that was the initial part of it. I can tell you a funny story. Talking to my mom was that apparently a lot of the cast members wanted to do it, but they didn't think other people would do it. Like John didn't think my mom would do it, and vice versa. So it was one of those things that it kind of was always kicked. They did my mom and John did a pilot for a show called Downwardly Mobile just 3 or 4 years ago. It didn't get bought, but they were doing a sitcom. It didn't materialize, but they were fine with doing a sitcom and working, but apparently no one thought that anyone would do it. And when it finally became a reality and Sarah and Tom were talking and mom signed on, John, then everybody came back. Literally everybody is back. There isn't anyone that's not back. Tom Arnold, I don't think, will be on it. But otherwise, I think everyone else will be there.
Tom didn't get the invite.
He didn't, and I told my mom that they should write things about Arnie that are just horribly, like, I want to say that, I want to, she always jokes that he had a small penis. So I said, you should talk about rehab and all the things that were kind of true about Tom, but she won't do it. She doesn't want to fight, which I like.
Yeah.
But
and obviously,
anyway,
Johnny Galecki is busy elsewhere. But yeah, I've noticed that everybody, all the characters everybody loved. And Roseanne's still a show, obviously, that's played on TV Land and CMT and all that. And if it's on, it's one of those shows like that 70s show and some of the other favorites from back then that I'll sit there and watch. And I don't care if I've seen the episode 50 times, which I have a lot of them. It's, it stands up well. So I think it's going to do well. Obviously, most people are going to know that it's coming back because the publicity around it is pretty huge. But there's a lot of people, like you said, our age and older that are really looking forward to it.
I have no doubt the first episode will do well. I think people want to tune in. I always worry about the drop off because there's always natural drop off. Some people just tune in the first time and they don't necessarily show up the next week on any TV show. And that's when I'll start getting nervous because, to come back the next week means you liked it and you want to continue to watch it. And to me, that's what makes a show good and stand the test of time. And that's when you're counting on the content and the writing and the characters. Like you're gripped, you're hooked. Like you said, you turn it on, you're going to watch it. Everyone I know turns on Roseanne. They're not moving for the next 2 or 3 hours until the marathon's over. So I'm hoping. I think it's still like that. I do.
No, hopefully.
We'll see.
Absolutely.
You never know, and you get a bad editor. And I know that every show was running a little long. We were having 6 to 8 minutes because there was so much good content, so much good laughs that we're having to cut. Sometimes 5 or 6 huge jokes just to make time on air,
wow.
Which is a good problem. But then I start getting sad, like all this great shit. We'll see. But anyway. So yeah, we'll see. I'm excited, and I didn't say anything that'll get me in trouble, so that's good.
Not yet. We'll see if we can make that happen. So, your mom's feelings about cannabis and legalization are obviously well known. It was one of the major platforms of her run for president. I've listened to interviews with you and shows of yours. And as far as I know, you didn't mention it, all that much. But what are your feelings, There you go.
Just
What are your feelings on cannabis, your experience with it, and your thoughts on legalization and all that?
I'm 100% for the legalization of marijuana recreationally. It finally is here in California, though, I know what Sessions is doing. I'm pro legalization of drugs since I was a kid. I personally am not a drug user for the most part. I was a stoner for 1 year when I was 18.
It's the time to do it.
It was great. I mean, I loved it. I just played Sega Genesis. It was John Madden, the original Madden, and NHL. Well, I guess whatever 2K3 or whatever it was back then. I don't even know. And I would just smoke pot and play video games all day, and I loved it. But then I kind of took a break off because I was going in the corporate world and working and building a career. I couldn't be high all the time. So I didn't smoke weed from probably 21 to maybe 32. And then when I started getting a little bit older and mellowing out, it's like, I'm going to go back to weed because it was so much fun. Well, in that 12 years, I don't know what you fuckers did. I don't know how what you're experimenting on or how you're learning to grow, because that was not weed. When I came back, that was like PCP or meth or bath salts. So the last 3 times I've tried weed, because I've given it a good effort. The first time, and I'm not a depressed guy. I'm like a happy. First time I not tried to kill myself, but I sat there for 3 hours thinking about killing myself. The most depressive ever. It was the weirdest thing. The only thing that kept me from blowing my brains out was I think this might be the weed. Woke up the next day, it was fine. So it's like, okay, maybe it's a bad strain. Tried it 2 more times. Every time I smoke weed now or eat it or whatever, I sit there for 3 hours and want to blow my brains out. So, to answer your question, if you can find me just shitty, swag, I guess we used to call it, with seeds in the stems, it's like grown in someone's bathtub, I'll do that, and I love that shit.
Oh, it's still out there. Absolutely. It might not be in California, but around where I am, you can find it pretty easily.
That's what I need, because I love that. I used to smoke it, and I'd write my journals, and everything was funny. And when I hear people talking about weed now, that's how they talk about it. And I don't have that experience. I think you guys kept smoking those 12 years and built up a tolerance.
Yeah.
So the new stuff to you is like, it feels like that. But those of us that took a decade off from weed, it's a different animal, man. It's great. I've done drugs. I did shrooms. In Vegas, I don't know what I was snorting that one night, but that weed is by far the one that screwed me up the most. Modern weed, I can't do it.
Wow, it is impressive the way that the strength that it's gathered just over the last 10 or 15 years is incredible.
It's amazing. It's a billion-dollar, multi-billion-dollar industry even before legalization. I think it's going to be big. It works for a lot of people. I know. My mom, that's why she was so big on it, because it helped with their anxiety, which cracks me up because I sat there wanting to blow my brains out. I don't understand how it helps. It makes me anxious. But for other people, depending on your brain chemistry, it can mellow you out. I know I'm a whiskey guy. I know if I have a glass of whiskey, sip it for a couple hours, then I feel mellow again. I feel like I used to when I smoked pot when I was 18. So maybe my brain chemistry is, I'm Irish Scottish. Maybe I got to just be soaked in alcohol.
Your brain's just craving the whiskey and.
It's all it works, honestly. I mean, I'll have whiskey. I drink a pretty good amount, and sorry to digress, but since you're a stoner, obviously your name's Stoner Jesus. This is one of the most fascinating observations I've made on culture. Was if you get up in the morning and have a drink, right? If I get out of bed and take a shot of vodka, which I don't, but let's say I did, everyone's like, "Oh man, he's got a problem," and they'll always ask, "Do you drink alone?" Because social drinking is okay. And everyone's got this whole thing about when we should have an intervention for the person drinking. And one day I was sitting there and I had a drink at lunch, and I was having a glass of whiskey at lunch, and someone's like, "Well, you might have a problem." That whole talk, and they were a stoner, and I started thinking, stoners wake up, they're high 24/7. Wake and bake. First thing you do is just, you're in your bed. You're not even out of bed yet. You're hitting the pipe. How come no one ever fucking treats you guys like that? How come no one says, "Oh, do you ever smoke alone?" Because that's when it's a problem. Do you smoke first thing in the morning? No, everyone else is like, "Stoner life, man, 420." If I did that alcohol life, I'm fucking buzzed right now. I woke up and had a shot. Everyone's like, "Ooh, we need to put him in rehab." It's weird.
That's definitely a good observation. I don't know if it has a lot to do with everybody that I've ever known that got up in the morning and started drinking. They're all dead. Obviously, it was cirrhosis of the liver and stuff like that. But you're right. Wake and bake is definitely a huge part of the culture.
Yeah, I mean, I I think it's all the people that didn't know how to maintain, as they used to say in the 70s. Like, people can't handle their booze. They started crashing into telephone poles and beating their kids and all this shit. They gave the rest of us a bad name. I could be drunk right now. You wouldn't even know. And I can function. I can drive when I'm inebriated, and everyone freaks out like, "Oh, you're drunk driving." Meanwhile, they're fucking high as a kite while they're driving.
Yeah.
Or if you're not even on weed, like everyone, 50 million people now, I think it is in America, on some form of psychotropic, antidepressant, mind-altering fucking substance, which is way more dangerous than alcohol and pot combined. Not that pot's dangerous, but you know what I'm saying. And they're sitting there popping their pills, and they're judging you and I, like, "Oh, you have to smoke pot and drink, and they take their fucking antidepressants because they're gonna blow their fucking brains out." Meanwhile, then those are the people that are walking in the fucking mini malls with AR-15s and shooting everybody.
Yeah.
Sorry, I should
everybody's
stop.
everybody's on something. I've noticed that my thing is my addiction, I guess, if you will, is caffeine. I'm sitting here. I don't drink coffee, so I'm drinking these dumb little fucking energy shot things all day, and if I don't, I get this massive headache, and I can't function at all, and it's horrible.
I have that too.
Yep, it's crazy shit. We live in a crazy time, whether it's weed or culture or anything. It's just, well, Trump's president. I think that's pretty much that's the encapsulation of it all.
I remember election night because I was already kind of turned off by then. Because, like I said, I was a Bernie guy, and I didn't like what Hillary did to Bernie, and I was already. And I live in California, so in California, you really don't have to vote. Everyone says your vote matters. It really doesn't matter in California. Honestly, Hillary's going to win California. It doesn't matter who I vote for. So I didn't vote. I just stayed home that night. I said, fuck it. I'm not going to vote. Hillary's going to win California. And I remember thinking, like, oh, there's no way Trump's going to win. It all felt good. And I fell asleep. Everyone was all nervous. I fell asleep, probably because I was drinking too much. And I fell asleep like at 7 p.m. And I remember I woke up at 2 a.m. to go to the bathroom. And I got and peed, and I was like, something happened. Oh, the election. And so I went on Twitter just to see the results, like how much Hillary had won by. And Trump was fucking president. And I shit you not, I sat there with my phone peeing, and I broke out in the loudest, most insane laugh I've ever had in my life for probably a minute and a half. And for the next 2 or 3 weeks, it still would hit me. I'd be talking to someone, and I'd be like, oh my God, can you believe Donald Trump is our president? Still happens to this day.
It was an extremely weird night. I was sitting here, following all the marijuana votes and all that because I write about it, and I was doing a rundown for the next day. And I had the TV on over here, and as the night just went on, Trump did this and Hillary didn't do this, and then the states started falling, the dominoes started falling. It was nuts.
It was fucking great. Yeah, and luckily I slept through all that because I think I would have had a hard time. Yeah, my dad is a huge Hillary supporter. He's on Facebook. He's kind of Facebook famous. If anyone wants to check him out, Bill Pentland. Really funny, bright guy. He's been having a really hard time. My sisters are huge Hillary supporters. They hate Trump. They have Trump derangement syndrome, as we call it.
Yeah.
So it's a really funny time for me and my family because my family's got a social media presence. My sister Jenny is Twitter famous. She's one of the funniest fucking people on Twitter. Jenny Pentland, you should check her out. And my dad and my mom, of course, is a huge celebrity, and they couldn't be more, polar opposites politically. And we fight. I just was over there last night. We were fighting about Trump, my family. And it's a lot louder. My family's probably a lot louder than most families. So it's a weird time, even interpersonally.
Yeah.
Not just the big picture and the nation. You know what I mean? Like your family, it's fucking crazy. Everyone's fighting with their family. People are disowning family members over Trump.
And the weird thing is, 10 years from now, this may seem like it's normal when, The Rock is in his second term, and we look back at the days of Trump, and those are the good old days that it wasn't so crazy.
I know, that's my worst fear is that people will look at this as like, they'll have that conversation in 8 years like we do now. Like, remember when we thought Trump was bad and that was a crazy time? Look what's happening now. Can you imagine that shit?
Yeah.
We'll be living in like a nuclear bunker somewhere. I don't know, man. I don't know where it's going. All I know is, to me, the hardest thing to be today is moderate and like a centrist and judging things on individual basis, judging people individually, which is how I operate. I'm considered crazy nowadays because I've been called a fence sitter and, I don't know other terms, but if you're centrist and you go, okay, what are we talking about? Let me look at the specific instance and then I'll form an opinion.
Yeah.
And it's no matter what color or gender anyone is or their politics, like you're actually looking at the case, like a judge would look. You do that nowadays, you're the enemy from both sides. Everyone hates you. If you're a left-wing nut job, you've got your group and your cult together. You've got your religion that you can hang out with. And if you're a right-wing nut job, same thing. If you're in the middle and you're just a reasonable, moderate human being that's intelligent, they all want you dead. It's the scariest thing to be these days. And most people don't even talk about how centrist they are, which is actually what most of us are. Yeah. I think more people are like, I do.
Yeah, absolutely. That's the way I am. I voted for Gary Johnson, so my guy only lost by 62 million votes. It was such a rough night.
I liked it, man. I liked him a lot. I liked when he did that fake pass out on the TV show.
Yeah,
I watched it. He was a funny guy.
Yeah,
libertarian. Well, I like a lot of things with libertarians. Some of the stuff is a little nutty, but you say that about everybody.
Yeah, absolutely. So before we let you go, you got any besides obviously Roseanne coming up? You have any big projects or anything you want to tell people about?
No, I'll be playing video games and napping with my cats. If anyone wants to check me out, you can check out my Twitter page. But I don't like to send people to my Twitter page because for me, Twitter is it's part of my mental health regimen. I find I'm such a nice. Did you ever see Me, Myself, and Irene with Jim Carrey?
Absolutely.
I feel like that's my life. Like I'm the nicest person in the world. I'm such a nice person, and sometimes I get walked over, and sometimes I hold my breath when I should say something to somebody. So for me, Twitter's my Hank. And that's where I snap into the other character. And I'm just a horrible shit poster. And it's great because for me, I'm drawing a boundary. I can turn off my phone and then go cuddle with my cats and cry at rom-coms. But on my Twitter, if you're not ready for my Twitter, you're going to think, most people think I'm a right-wing Trump supporting, white supremacist. And it's part of me also kind of enjoys that. Like, I like that people misjudge me. My family, we've been misjudged our whole lives. It's a part of our culture in my family, the people thinking they know you, but they don't. And I don't know. I guess I'm kind of comfortable in that spot.
Yeah, if I ever find myself, if I ever think of something that I think to myself, oh, you really shouldn't say that, I go to my Twitter as quick as possible and then try to get it out, which I think is the same thing Trump does, obviously.
It is. No, I mean, I'll finish this about the Trump presidency. I'm as scared as anybody. Some things I'm keeping an open mind about. Some things are going okay. So I'm okay. I'm not freaking out yet. But as far as from an entertainment standpoint, just for being entertained, this is the greatest president in the history of our country. Yeah. This is the greatest time. And Donald Trump's Twitter is one of my favorite things that I got to witness. A lot of people were there for Pearl Harbor and World War II and the Greatest Generation. They'll talk about. I was alive when Donald Trump, the president, had an active Twitter, and that's gonna mean something someday.
Absolutely, yeah, it's entertaining. So go follow Donald Trump.
Exactly, definitely follow and Donald Trump, both accounts. The POTUS one's critical, but I love Donald Trump's Twitter, and I've been accused I've accused Trump of stealing my style. To be honest, He tweets a lot like I do, and I think he's been stealing my shit.
You type "sad" a lot with a little exclamation point.
I do, and I also, Trump, he's not a smart person. He's going to make a lot of people mad. He's not bright from an education standpoint, from like a book smart. I don't find him particularly witty, which is, for me, an important part of judging someone's intelligence, a sense of humor. I don't find him particularly funny. But when it comes to using the media and playing the media and knowing what to say to get people talking, the guy's a damn genius, man. One of the best I've ever seen. And the fact that a lot of people do credit his Twitter account with getting him elected, I think there's a lot of truth to it because that's how he was doing it.
Yeah.
The year running up the election, a lot of it was Twitter. And then because the way he tweets, the left-wing media will grab his tweet and post it on their CNN and MSNBC show and talk about it. And they always say he got free airtime, and he did. He's the greatest shit poster of our generation.
Yeah, he can definitely he'll claim the news cycle anytime he feels like it, just with in a couple minutes.
And I think he does. He's brilliant, and I think they're starting to kind of figure it out, like that they've been played a little bit. But he'll still. I mean, right now, I bet as we're talking, if you get off and go look, we probably miss a tweet that's got 1 million retweets, and people are fighting over it, and there's fights in the streets and riots somewhere. It's great. I'm so happy these days. I want Trump president for life.
Yeah.
And he also pisses off the people I can't stand. I'm liberal, right? For the most part, I say I'm centrist, but really in my heart, I'm a sane liberal, like the JFK type of liberal. And everyone to the left of me is batshit crazy, in my opinion. That's why I say libtard every other day on Twitter. But I'm not talking about liberals or Democrats. I'm talking about the crazy fucking left-wing nut jobs that are, they have 900,000 genders and shit. They can't debate. Those people are so upset with Trump, and I hate them. So he's kind of like the enemy of my enemy, and that's why I love Trump. Anyway, that's the end of my spiel.
It's definitely a crazy time. Jake, thanks for coming on the show. Anytime you want to come back, man, we're always here doing something.
You got it. I miss talking, as you can tell. It's been a while since anyone was listening.
Get you a show. After Roseanne gets on the air and everything's good, kind of slide under the radar there and get back to the podcasting. Although I picked something else besides Blog Talk Radio. There's other services now where people actually hear you clearly.
I was doing it on my website. I actually had it all done, streamed. I built the whole thing. I was doing it was great, but you can't be fired, and you can't make a living as a podcaster unless you're very, very lucky or very, very good, which I was neither. So I couldn't do it. And if I was going to lose my actual day-to-day job, I couldn't do it. That was kind of the choice I had to make. I actually had to choose between employment or a podcast.
Well, employment's always the best choice.
That's what I did. But if there's a day where I'm safe and I can go back and podcast and not worry about losing my job, then yeah, I would do it. I miss it. Yeah.
Well, we'll be
anyway. You got it, man.
All right. Thanks, Jake. Have a good one.
You too. Thank you.
Bye. Jake Pentland, son of Roseanne, fake Pentland, on the Twitter. Go follow him, yo. Thanks, Jake.